Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Paranormal Karen, funny too. Paranormal Karen, she's so spooky. Oh, and did I mention she's funny too? Yeah, cha-cha-cha.
Yay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited tonight, and I want to get right to our guest because I don't want to waste any time, which she is so interesting and exciting. I've already wasted time telling you I don't want to waste time. In fact, it's very funny because today Courage has had diarrhea, and I almost had to cancel because he keeps interrupting things, and I have a neighbor who is literally, she is ready for the text message that says now, where she will have to run up and take him down if he has to go. So we have a great backups for my podcast. So today, I remember Danielle when she was singing at Hallenbach's, and I was telling jokes. So her name is Danielle Egnew, right? Did I say that right, Danielle?
You did, Egnew. Yep, you nailed it.
Yes, I had to stop twice, and I already had to text my neighbor that the dog has to go. She was voted. She was voted Psychic of the Year by UFO and Supernatural magazine. I'm going to go through the list of her talents, although I'm going to say it would be easier to find the things she can't do because she is that good. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, empath, psychometry, mediumship, remote viewing, profiling, spirit guide and channeling, angelic communications, ET interpretation, tonal healing, has her own spiritual ministry, and the greatest hair in the paranormal, if not the world.
Thank you.
Danielle Egnew -advisor is her website. We're going to spell that for you after. I want to talk about three things with you, Danielle. First of all, True Tales of the Truly Weird is the book. Monterey House, The Perfect Haunting, the movie. And now let's get to you. I think I got my dog out of the way. How are you today?
Right on. I'm actually great, Karen. And hey, listen, I feel you with the dogs. We have 3 dogs in our house here in Montana, 2 little Pomeranians and a little mini American Eskimo. And, you know, when they got to go, man. It's just how it goes. So I'm feeling you, and everybody upstairs is holding their potty for now. So I'm feeling very confident during this interview. I'm feeling very good.
Wonderful. Oh my God. And I know it's just crazy. This little guy is the love of my life. People hear about him on the podcast, and there was a change of food or whatever, but I can't wait to talk to you. In fact, when I couldn't even narrow down, I always try to get 3 things, and I could not even narrow it down. The first thing I would love to start with is tell me about your legacy of your family or your psychic history. I find that fascinating.
Oh, wow. Well, okay. So as we know, Karen, these gifts and abilities, they're physically genetic and they're spiritually genetic. And in my family, I had all sorts of mediums and healers and seers. I still do. My grandpa, Louis Cacciardi, on my mom's side, he saw death masks on people, which was a phenomenon of a white mist that would appear over somebody's face. Yeah. And he would come home, Karen, just flat, freaked out that he had seen a death mask appear on someone's face. And he'd have to just kind of sit down and have a cup of coffee and chill out because it really upset him. And then usually within, 2 or 3 days, that person would pass.
Wow.
And my grandma Pinky, she was a huge empath, and she would just sit there and feel people and know what was going on in the world. My other granny on my dad's side, my granny Egnew, she was an incredible empath and had a lot of those clair gifts going on also. So I've come by this just genetically, very honestly. And it goes, just back and back, my Italian heritage. We had so many of the Italians that were part of the mystical cultures, or even the more mystical Catholicism back in the day. So it's not something that we talked a whole lot about, which is so weird because you think we'd be talking about it all the time. But it was more, Karen, like we all had some version of this. I have a couple of cousins of mine that are highly intuitive. They don't prefer the word psychic, but highly intuitive. So it just runs in our family.
Well, you know what, too, I think is interesting about that is then it's never been poo-pooed or, oh, that's the devil's work. I think that a lot of people get that, somebody was afraid of it and sort of kind of pushed against it. And I think that really hurts some people.
Oh, absolutely. I remember a phase in the 80s where my mom was going through remember the 80s phase, the evangelical 80s phase of Christianity. And my mom went through that for a while here in Montana. And it was honestly, it was a pretty watered down version of what we now can see. It can be a pretty fired up version of evangelical Christianity sometimes. Yet even in that, my mother never came back and said anything about any sort of psychic issue or nothing. None of that was ever demonized. And I think it's because my mom's a giant empath, and I think she realized, well, if I go down that road, there's a lot of self-hatred in that. So she didn't go there.
Oh, yeah. And, I know so many mediums that would see things as kids, and someone would say, you're not seeing that. And I think, what does that do to your psyche? That's got to make you crazy.
I think it would. Here's the weird part. So when I was about 2 years old, I went up to visit my great uncle and my great aunt, Sylvia and Dominic Grano, of Jizwali, up on the heights up here in Billings on their farm. And I was a little scared of my uncle Dominic because he was just huge. He's this big, intimidating person. So I always used to hang out with my Auntie Sylvia, and she'd pat her leg, and I'd go lean on her leg, and she was the sweetest lady. She'd pet my hair, whatever. Well, I'm telling this to my mother when I'm about 17 years old, right? And I'm saying how much I loved going to see Auntie Sylvia because Uncle Dominic kind of scared me. And my mom just looked at me and she said, oh, no, you just remember Dominic because, and she insisted. I said, no, Mom. And I gave her the whole description of Sylvia. And she says, no, that's exactly what she looked like. That's exactly what she wore. That's exactly what her perfume smelled like. But she died 2 years before you were born.
Oh.
And I know. And I looked at my mom like my poor mother was getting like super early onset Alzheimer's. I'm like, no, Mom. She was standing right there. And as it turned out, my mom went and fished out because we're Italian. So, of course, we save everybody's flyer from their funeral, don't you know? But she went and she found the little card from Auntie Sylvia's funeral. And sure enough, she died in 1967. And I was born in 1969. And I was 17 years old before I actually realized that I was seeing stuff that other people weren't.
Really? Now, I have to say, I love all the names because they just ooze olive oil. You really had that Italian background.
Yeah. My great-grandparents came to America through Ellis Island from Italy on my mom's side.
Wow. That's amazing. So, and you also, I was reading on your webpage when you were 15 and went to New York. Can you tell that story?
Oh, that was a trip and a half. I was so into theater when I was a kid, and I didn't understand these channeling aptitudes that I had. Mm. So I was just like, why does anybody struggle acting? You just become that character. You just download a spirit that's hanging out with you, and you just, learn from them and talk like them. And so I guess I was cheating to a large degree. But anyway, we went to so much for my Oscar.
No cheating in Hollywood. There's no cheating in Hollywood. Everything's honest.
Oh, that's how. Yeah. Yes, of course. So we went to New York when I was 15 on a drama tour because I was on the drama team. And while there, of course, we visited all the tourist destinations. One of them, of course, being the World Trade Centers. And we went clear up to the top of the World Trade Centers. And I don't have vertigo. I'm not really afraid of heights. It's not like that. And I was standing looking out on the North Tower, and you could actually, when you were up in those towers, you could see them twisting in the breeze. They were so tall that the wind would come off the river and they would move. And so I was commenting on the fact that you could see the towers moving, and the tour guide said, yes, that's pretty common, that's so they don't fall down, blah, blah. And I went into the cafeteria, which was in the middle of the North Tower, so I wasn't even by the window, and I had this horrendous sensation of the floor just dropping out completely, just dropping out from under my feet, like if you were in an elevator and the cable just snapped.
Wow.
And I grabbed on to this cafeteria building. And my friend looked at me and, considering I'm 15 and I'm not really smooth with doing any of these space-time overlaps that you get with all of these aptitudes. And I literally said to her, I said, "Oh my God, did you feel that?" And she said, "No." She goes, "Oh, you're just feeling the building twisting." I said, No. This feels just like the floor just dropped right out from underneath of us. And it just kept doing it over and over again. And I just kept hanging on to this railing up there. And she says, "Why are you hanging on to the railing?" And I said, "Because can't you feel the floor is going to give out and I have to ride the building down?" I said, "We're too high."
Wow.
And so they actually ended up coming over and kind of walking me to the elevator, the security guards, because they just thought I was some whack kid from Montana who couldn't handle being in the city, who got freaked out at the time. I'm like, "No, not back and forth. It's collapsing, like it's falling down." And when I got to the ground, Karen, because I wanted to get down at that point.
Right.
My friend Jason, right, he was on the bus with me, and he said, "Are you okay? Because you just look terrible." And I just remember looking up at that building, and it disappeared into the clouds. That's how tall it was. I mean, it just was this unearthly looking thing when they were standing. And I looked up at it and I said, "That is not supposed to be here." I said, "And that building is going to fall down." And he just looked at me like, "You're nuts, girl." And I thought it was scary.
Wow. Well, I'm so fascinated because when you see that, okay, so you look up and you see the buildings are not there. Is it you see it as clearly as like I see them there, or do you see through it, or is it a veil, or you just see it?
Imagine if you were literally looking at a hologram that just disappeared halfway up. You know, like it's solid and then it just disappears.
Wow.
And I just looked at that like that thing is not even really there. Wow.
Wow. And when so Claire audience also, you will hear voices that are like what we hear as EVPs on the recording. You actually hear those like the person is standing next to you?
That is correct. And I have made so many requests of the spirit realm to not come up and whisper in my ear, because that will cause a person to on your leg. I'm sorry. That's scary when that happens. I'm like, please don't whisper right in my ear. Talk to me in my head. But I can't. I do hear them. And the less friendly ones will do things like that because they want to unnerve you.
Oh, wow. Well, that's actually another thing that you, you were saying on your video, on one of your videos on your website that I watch, you challenge demons.
Well, I guess demonic life, I think, is a little misunderstood, just from the perspective of those of us who grew up very Christian. And we were taught that these beings are out to specifically get us, like God's weird jilted girlfriend that's, running back to, torment the kids. It wants to get back at God,
Yeah.
And so we have like this, we carry this great fear of these entities around. And Karen, honest to God, what people don't understand about demons are real, chaotic darkness is real. People don't understand that it has a function. I mean, however a person looks at God, okay, light made it all, creation made it all. Mm-hmm. And darkness, it has a job, and its job is to eat all of the dissonance and the pain and the chaos and the junk out of the ethers, the energies that we as humans put off like a smokestack. We're constantly off-gassing horrible energy. And energy, as you know, if we go back to Einstein, it's not destroyed, it's transferred. So dark is attracted, just like a shark is in the ocean eating the trash out of the ocean, or the shark is attracted by the blood because there's a wounded fish and it needs to clean up the oceans by eating this junk out of it. Darkness goes around and eats all this junk out of the ether sphere. Wow. And if we are, that's what it does. And so if we're afraid of it, so to more, put a frame around what you're talking about with challenging these demons, I more recognize them for what they are. I don't try to provoke them or poke them yet at the same time, I recognize that they're there to eat pain, to eat chaos, to eat dissonance. So if I'm not putting any of that out, and I'm simply saying, there's nothing for you here. And if I'm trying to engage this in a non-emotional engagement, that darkness isn't going to stay. And there's many ways you can deal with different types of darkness, and there's jinn, and there's all sorts of things. That's a big old long list, girl.
Right.
Yet with our traditional demonic life, right, Karen, it's, if we're afraid of them, it makes them more powerful. They literally eat it as fuel. And it's important for people to know, not that I'm trying to be on a soapbox about demons here, but it is important for people to know that just like angelic life is able to look within us and see our hopes and our dreams and our fears, really the demonic life is the junky cousins of the angels, and they do the same thing. So they're going to pull the file that scares you the most. So literally we're creating our worst fear that they are then enacting to freak us out the most, so they can eat and we can be the golden corral and they can just hang out there and eat all the crap out of the ethers. And once you understand that, it's a lot easier to deal with that energy signature.
It is. And, it's funny because Tommy Durant, who I have on, well, he's only been on once yet because I'm kind of new, but he's a good friend of mine. And he said, I'll never forget one time, I don't know, he was probably half joking, but he was like, I said, what do you do when a demon walks in the room? And he says, you go, hey, you want a hug? And I thought, well, yeah. I don't know if I'd have the guts to say that, but I think that's very interesting. Now you have such there's such a broad range of things that you talk about and have knowledge on. And one of the things that I find very fascinating that is very hard for myself and people to understand are like there's fairies and elementals. And I thought, can you tell me like about elementals?
Oh, absolutely, sister. And, I believe, it's my opinion, that it's so hard for us to get our brain around the idea of elementals because we fictionalize them to these goofy little Disney characters like Tinkerbell or, if you believe in fairies, clap your hands, and the fact of the matter is,
yeah.
Right? I mean, there's not enough saccharin in the world to get you over that, sweet. I mean, it's just, whoa. So what elementals are, they are in essence creators or God's middle management for earth energies is what they are.
Your phone busted up for just a second there. Could you say that one more time? You said they are, and then it busted up.
Oh, you betcha. And I'm probably getting messed with by some elementals because they don't like being talked about. So here we go. They are God's middle management for nature. And they are literally beings that they were here before human beings. They have evolved from the very beginning with our planet. You hear about Pele, the fire goddess in Hawaii. That's actually an elemental. You hear about some of the gods or versions of God, because actually Hinduism is not a polytheistic religion, but it's one God with 10,000 faces, right? Mm-hmm. So some of those beings that have been pulled into Hinduism started out as elemental deities. So what elementals are literally, they are handling the earth energies, and they handle our vortexes, the ether, the thin spots in the ethers, like Bigfoot's an elemental actually. And Bigfoot passes between the elemental ethers, which is why we've actually got video footage of people tracking a Bigfoot and then it just disappears because they know how to navigate that stuff. And we don't, because we're pretty new on the rock, Karen.
I know. Well, it's funny because my best friend is an animal communicator, and sometimes we'll look for lost animals. And you would know this. I do the tarot. I get directions and things, and she gets what the animal can see. And we have had many occasions where we really think they're going interdimensional, because there was one with like a pit bull took off from a Halloween party, and it had on a sweater and pearls and a tiara, which I think should be the name of her book. Have you seen a pit bull wearing pearls and a tiara? I think that should be it.
That's awesome.
Right. And the dog, we knew the dog was coming back, and we had certain parts of the, what was going on. But literally the dog came back maybe, I think 2-3 months later, sweater still on, clean, as when the dog left, the pearls on, but the tiara was gone. But I don't think, probably the dog was like, no, I'm not taking that back. But do you think animals do that same thing? They can travel interdimensionally like that?
Oh, absolutely. And cats are the biggest offenders when it comes to that. Not that it's an offensive task to travel interdimensionally. Yet cats, of course, as you know, were utilized by the ancient Egyptians and many, many other ancient cultures to find vortex points and to scare off certain energies that were lower vibration, because cats could detect all of those. So that's why it'll be so weird. You're sitting there and your cat's nowhere to be found, and you turn around and it's just staring at you on the couch. And you're like, I know you weren't there 5 minutes ago. I know you weren't there 30 seconds ago. I just looked at you. So yes, animals are very in tune with the elemental kingdom. Animals have evolved with our planet since the planet was created.
Wow.
Human beings have evolved with our planet to a degree. Then we had a little help from our off-world friends, and that's where we got the different hominin strands that popped up and killed everybody else off. So if you look at it, Karen, we're the only mammal on Earth with a conquest gene. You know, a bear doesn't look at the top of a mountain and go, I need that other mountaintop. A bear is just territorial. Humans have a conquest desire, and that's a whole different setup that's in our genetics.
Wow, that's fascinating. You know, I keep telling people I do it as a comedy piece, and yes, I'm going to get it up soon enough. But I got in trouble once and had a fairy attachment, and it kind of went as south as that can go, and it was literally a cat that got it off me.
Well, yeah. So it's important to think about these elemental beings. They are stewards of our planet. They are in complete synchronicity with Mother Gaia. And then here comes we people in our monkey suits with our shovels, and we just dig everything up, and we just wreck everything and pollute the oceans. And these beings are like, excuse me, I don't know how else to get your attention. And it's not like you, Karen, are walking around, you know, wrecking things or whatnot. It's likely that elemental being attached itself to you because you could sense it, because you could feel it. And there was probably something that it was trying to communicate, like, hey, could you tell those other people to stop throwing that Nestle wrapper in the trash, like in the street?
Right.
Generally, they attach for a reason because they have a bit of a hard time with our energy signature.
Well, I actually, I went fishing for trouble, but actually I'm surprised you realize you are a great psychic, because my weekend plans were to just go trash things. But,
tread lightly, my friend, tread lightly.
I had someone, I had always had these little meetings at my house. We always had little speakers, and we had a Wiccan come over and we did a fairy spell. And then I kept seeing the fairy in my meditation, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And someone said, that's a puka, you should talk to it. And I believe that gave it the invite. And then it kind of went south from there.
Oh my. Yeah, they're not, elementals are not they're not unfriendly. They are just wild. It's like having a wild beast in the house. I mean, they're like, wah! It's an intense energy. That's quite something, girl. Wow.
Yeah. And it's, it was actually quite a thing, but it was funny that, like people say they have no, I think wild, what you said is a better definition, because people have always said to me, they have no conscience. They just know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. They just know what you want. Oh, we lost you. There you go. They're messing with your phone.
They are. They don't like to be talked about. We have tons of elementals here in the valley where I live in Billings, because we have several ley lines that come up from the Prior Mountains, which are a very sacred place for many tribes, especially the Crow Nation here in Montana. And there are little people up there. That's what they call them. It's the little people up there that are documented. Lewis and Clark documented the little people when Lewis and Clark passed through this area. So there's a lot of elementals in this region, and they give me a hard time. They mess up my electronics, and they generally think I'm okay because I advocate for them in terms of advocating for the earth. But they do have a conscience. They just think that we're daft as can be. They think we are thick as a plank, and they get very frustrated with our lack of conscientiousness and with our illusion that we're not connected to other things. So they get frustrated.
Oh, well, actually, I might agree with them on that.
Right?
Yes, I know. I think a lot of us are thick as a board. I say us, but I do my best. But yeah, I think that just the way let's not even talk about war and go there. But right. I find them fascinating. And do you differentiate fairies and elementals?
Not really. I put all the Fae into the Fae kingdom, the elemental kingdom. There's people get really into it. There's fairies and trolls and gnomes, and they're different beings, certainly. And there are elementals, Karen, that people routinely mistake for poltergeist, and they routinely mistake for, quite honestly, demons. And I've been on a paranormal investigation with a couple of mutual friends that we have, Dave and Tom, where the being that the people were just absolutely positive was a demon was actually an elemental that was freaked out because they paved over the entire backyard and stuck a big pool in it. There was not one piece of greenery in that backyard.
That's fascinating. Now, I lived in a house, a guest house that was actually on a ley line, and I had the strangest things. This was sort of before I was more into it and actually more educated by, people like Tommy and Dave. And there would be scratching all over when there was nowhere, the floor was cemented, something was scratching underneath and that kind of thing. But I had a leak. I had a kitchen faucet that wouldn't stop leaking. And every time the landlord would come in to check it, it wasn't leaking. So when I left to go on a road trip, I left a glass under it and it would keep filling the glass. So the guy finally said, okay, I get it, but I don't know what to do. And a friend said, well, you have a water elemental that wants to play, leave a bowl of water out and it will stop. And she was right.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wants to get it wants to get into the other space, and it travels through that amazing, the transducicity of water. So yeah, you stuck that bowl out there, and away she went. She was happy.
Yeah. So, do you have any advice on how people can sort of keep elementals? Like, how do we respect them? Just by respecting nature?
Respecting nature, and also especially respecting nature in our living space. For those who own a home, planting flowers and planting vegetables, some kind of plants that give back, that have blooms that give to the bees, having synchronous plants in your yard and planting more trees. So then that gives life to bugs and a safe place for squirrels and for birds, becoming part of the environment and giving back rather than just being takers. I was filming a TV, an episode actually a TV pilot I was filming over Christmas time. And we were out in an area that has a lot of elementals in this woman's home. And I ended up talking to these elementals a great deal. And they actually kind of creep me out. They're scary to me because they are very intense. They are very authentic, and they have one agenda, which is the earth and synchronicity and preservation of all beautiful things and working in harmony with everything. And, you don't realize how much you're not that being until you're in the presence of something that actually is programmed to do that. Right. You realize, wow, I probably did throw a straw out my window, last week, or not even thinking about it. And so these beings, they said that they actually liked me okay, which was, they didn't really like me, but they didn't dislike me, which is being liked by the elemental kingdom.
Who doesn't like you? Who doesn't like you? Everyone likes you. I sound like your mom. Everyone likes Danielle.
I love you, Karen. Oh my God. What they call these beings, they said, you're okay, basically, right? But they call humans, they said, do you know who the blade people are? The blade people.
Oh, and,
people, the John Deere tractors and the folks who cut up the earth and all of the heavy lifting machinery. They call careless humans, they call them the blade people that cut the earth.
Wow. That's fascinating.
So it's kind of heavy.
Yeah, that's interesting that I like that word intense because that's what I feel like. So do you actually see them visually, like you could draw a picture of what they look like, or you just sort of connect and understand audio or clairsentience?
I have asked them kindly to come in through that third eye so I can see them perfectly in my head. I have asked them not to just show up because I started to actually see one, like you would see something in a three-dimensional way when I was up at Bighorn Canyon, which is full of little people. And there's one particular side canyon whose name I won't even mention because I don't want it inundated with people looking for these beings. yet they live there. And we had pulled over, and I was up on the side bank of this canyon fishing, and I heard this rustle, rustle, rustle in the bushes. And I'm like, oh no. And it was this little bitty, I could see it through the bushes, this 18-inch tall gray, looked like it had some kind of a skin on or something wrapped around its waist. It was small, real stocky. It looked like it had about 3 fingers. And I can tell, I could draw one for you. I could absolutely draw one for you. And it was beaming into my head what it looked like. And it was kind of pacing me, and it freaked me out so bad. I was running back to the boat, and it ran, and I was looking at it, and it was running through these, it was actually poison ivy that it was running through. So I could kind of see it through there. And right as it got to I was so panicked, and I'm just beaming over to this thing. Please, 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 please don't run out. Please don't run out and look at me. Please, please. I know I can see you. Please don't do that. And it got right to the edge of the poison ivy. And then I just thought blur. It just grayed right out. It just blurred out. And that's the closest I've ever come. I didn't want to see it. They're scary. They've got kind of a egg-shaped head and kind of a flatter face, very wide mouth, little bitty pointy teeth, like something that you would see out of a bad 1980s horror movie. And their eyes are very wide set apart, which actually makes them wicked good hunters, because that creates a very wide depth of field for them, even with such small heads. And their eyes are yellowish, or they're orangish, and just piercing, like, wow. So I'm just like, please don't look at me. Don't look at me.
See, I think, yeah, sometimes I see like little light forms or globs, and I think, I'll never forget, I did an ayahuasca trip once, and my shaman was like, before we do this, maybe tell the vine spirit what you would like to see. And so I was like, I want to see the matrix. I want to know what the matrix is like. So halfway through the trip, I'm sort of communing with the vine spirit, and I go, she looks at me and she goes, what do you want to see? And I go, I want to see the matrix. And then she kind of gives me this dirty look and goes, really? Do you think you're ready for the matrix? And I go, no, you're right. I'll look at it next time. But I thought, that's with these beings. I think that we would be freaked out. In fact, I have a couple of books on fairies. And when I saw what a puka was actually what it was, when I saw what a puka was like, because this woman had said, oh, it's like the movie Harvey. And because it kept looking like a bunny. And she was like, oh, you got to see the movie Harvey. It's great. And then when I kind of looked up what puka was, by the way, don't get your paranormal information from Hollywood movies. Not always right. I was terrified at what it looked like. But it's so funny because next week's episode is about, I went to Ann Arbor, and they have all in Ann Arbor, they have the fairy doors. They call them urban fairy doors. I got to interview the guy that does them all over the city. Like, you will have a store, and it's called the Red Shoe Store. And then right next to the regular door, there's a teeny, teeny, teeny little door exactly like it for the fairies. And they have them all over the city. And I kind of love them, but then I was a little bit like, I don't think I would invite that.
Yeah. And, they may have started doing that to make peace if they were having a lot of electrical issues, if they were having a lot of things go missing, or a lot of problems. They might have put those fairy doors in just to acknowledge them, because I've noticed with the Fae, acknowledgement with them goes a really long way. It goes a really long way.
Oh, that's
so
good.
Perhaps, or either that, or it's just kitschy and cool and cute, and who doesn't love a fairy door, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll leave that open for next week's episode.
Right on.
I'm going to take 1 second here for our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with the fabulous Danielle. Okay, I just lost another hour of my life because I went to ghoststop.com. Ghoststop.com has all your paranormal needs. It's like ghost hunting porn. You cannot stop once you start looking at all the things on this website. They have K2 meters, REM pods, the new Boo Buddy Bear Interactive, and say that 3 times fast, and then you'll see if you're drunk. Mel meters, EVP recorders. They have the best cameras on the market. If you need a camera to go ghost hunting, or if you just happen to find yourself in the bushes of your ex-boyfriend's apartment building, all great quality cameras that get the job done. GhostStop.com. Go take a look. If you don't know what I'm talking about, take a look at his beginner packages where you get everything all in one, all your ghost hunting needs met. Now I'm going back because I need more. Okay. So Danielle, on to the next topic. I feel like I'm draining I want all this information. Is this just, do you just know a lot of this yourself, or is it years of studying and books, or a mixture of all?
It's a mixture of all. And I honestly feel as though my job every day is mostly translating for angelic beings. That's mostly what I do. But I translate for anybody who shows up, off-worlders, elementals, whatever. And these angels are temporal creatures, so they are completely full of the knowledge of all things. And I learn so much. It's like the Discovery Channel talking to these guys. I mean, they'll be talking about somebody's job, or somebody's an engineer and they need some help with some design. And I don't even know what I'm looking at, but I'm trying to recount to the person what they're talking about. So I have an opportunity to learn in real time a lot, which is really super cool. And then I love to read stuff. I mean, I love to read about, I can't say I'm a voracious reader because I'm a slow reader. Actually, I have problems with character recognition sometimes. However, I love to read with the knowledge that I'm learning something fascinating. So most of this has been, if you want to call it, on the job training, or working with very experienced people in other fields who have taught me things. And some of it has been, reading and just studying up. Generally, I'm studying to learn more about the being I encountered, because I want to know more about that thing.
I wonder, I have an awful time reading. I think I'm dyslexic. I really, it's very hard for me. And I'm wondering if that comes with the territory of sort of the third eye.
I'm wondering too, and it's interesting because I'm 49 flipping years old, Karen, and I have recently just found out that I always thought I had some form of dyslexia, and I guess it's called Erlen syndrome, where your brain has a very hard time delineating characters if it's on like a very bright white background. Oh. I have an easier time if I'm reading like against a blue background or a dark background or whatever. But if you think about that, the polarization of black and white, there is nothing about this field that's polarized. This whole field is seeing the world through a lens of gray. So I thought I think you're right. I think there's a lot to that, just that black and white, it doesn't make any sense in my brain. It's really strange.
Right. Another thing too, on topic, I haven't even gotten to the last topic, and I'm just, so I think I could talk to you forever. I feel like a lot of times, I notice I wouldn't say shamans that maybe live in the mountains or this, but like sometimes, and I don't mean to degrade them when I say Hollywood shamans, but shamans that live around here and work around here and work with the people, say in LA, a lot of times I see them, they might later have multiple sclerosis or something like that. And I always wonder, is it that is such a big vibration for such a little physical body? Or maybe I'm interpreting that wrong?
I don't believe you are. And I think there are many modalities that affect the body. For instance, shamanism is not widely understood. For some, it very much is. For others, it can be, and it's certainly not to, as you mentioned, not to degrade anybody's work at all. For some, they don't understand what shamanism actually is. And you are an energy transmuter if you are a shaman. You are literally the inside of the PVC pipe. You are the power converter that you take to France so you don't blow up your fire. I mean, and a lot of people don't understand the nature or the demand of the job. For those of us that channel a lot of information or transmute a lot of information, there is a necessity. And I want to put two disclaimers out before I say this, before I even go on any further. Okay. I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that I'm the perfect example of this, or that I'm some superhero, or that I have something that others don't. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I recognize, I'm so vibrationally sensitive that I recognize how much energy is constantly pumping through my body. And because of that, I paint, I sing, I do all kinds of things. I channel, I do my work, I compose, because it doesn't turn off. And I also do things like yoga, and I do boot camp, and I ride my mountain bike constantly. And I am very much engaging the flesh suit that I'm in because if you don't, yet you're trying to just hold all this energy, but you don't really run it through the system, it begins to eat the system. And like you said, it's a lot of energy. So, and I always say that I think everybody goes into things with the best of intentions. I always want to hold that space for people, yet they may not really truly understand the nature of what it is they're doing to the body. And it can cause physical problems.
You just kind of you just taught me some things and opened some doors for me. I have always had, I'll tell you one thing I'm grateful for is I got the body that goes with my spirit. That's what I've always said, because sometimes I would go jogging 4 and 5 times a day. Like, I am active. I have to be moving all the time. And I used to kind of read tarot cards for friends, and I used to do it. Then I would do it for other people. I started out kind of small, word of mouth. And then when it became, I went, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this as a job. And I put it out online and I put it out there. I sort of went from a few readings to 3 to 4 a day, and now sometimes 4 and 5 a day. And it is something that I'm still think I'm learning to adjust to. In fact, I've just started the habit of walking the dog barefoot, which probably isn't smart in LA, but
you need to ground. You need to ground out. It's so funny. Okay. Just to confirm your instinct on that. Today I had a reflexology appointment. And my reflexologist looked at me and she said, you need to take your shoes off and earth, which just stand in the grass or walk barefoot, which isn't my favorite thing because I pick everything up through my feet. Right. But you got to suck it up, right? So you're on the right track.
Oh, good. And, just real quick, I have so many, I always ask this almost of every guest that does psychic work or empath work. I know, and it's so funny, especially actresses, they need to hear this. So many people are really empathic and have no understanding of it. And I always try to give them the basics, salt bath, meditation, putting the white light around you, essential oils. Have anything to add for that for people that are literally I used to be like this. I used to have to go home and shut down. Like, I was not sure what were my thoughts or what were others. I think years of doing comedy on the road, I built up a wall and sort of stopped that. But I have so many people that that's an issue for. Any advice?
Absolutely. You go and you get yourself a big old piece of black tourmaline. Remember, we did originally evolve with the planet before our off-world friends came to Earth, and what happens on Earth stays on Earth, apparently. So here we are. Yet the black tourmaline, when worn low between, the pecs, it goes over the heart chakra. You want a big chunk of it too. And this is the time in life where I say it's the only time that size actually matters is this black tourmaline. You want a good chunker of it right there.
I'm going to disagree with that. Not the only time.
Right on.
When you're going for donuts, you want a lot of big donuts. That's what you want.
That's true. You want your bang for your buck. Absolutely. Right. So, get your bang for your buck with your black tourmaline here. Just get a big chunk of it. Black tourmaline is an energy attenuator, and it acts, again, like an energy converter. So, for example, every human body has a frequency. So say mine, we're going to talk in radio dial frequencies so it's easier to understand. Say my frequency is at 88.5. And all of the chaos that's flying around me in the ether sphere that we talked earlier about, chaotic darkness is eating it. We've got elementals, off-worlders, people's freakouts, dead people walking around everywhere. They're all on different radio dial frequencies. What the tourmaline does is it takes all of these chaotic different frequencies, dials them down to your 88 point whatever it is in your own body, and then passes them back to the heart chakra. Otherwise, the heart chakra is in process of sucking in all of this energy through the chest, is converting that energy within the body and then passing it backwards. Tourmaline assists in that. It's like an aquarium filter. So it takes care of that a little bit first, actually quite a bit, and passes it back through. And my wife, Rebecca, is a humongous empath. And I can always tell what kind of day she's having. If she wakes up and she's got 2 or 3 strands of tourmaline around her, I see that she's picking up a lot on that bandwidth that day. Wow. And so I would encourage everybody, go to your local rock shop, support your local vendors. If you don't have any, you can order it on Amazon, but you want to, It's better if you can actually vibe it out and hold it. And just so you know, real quick, nothing's going to happen when you first grab it. It's not like you're going to have the Cecil B. DeMille thing happen. I mean, just hang on to it and just give yourself about 2 or 3 minutes, and pretty soon you just feel better. You're not sure why. That's the tourmaline helping you out.
That, or as people know, GaiaSpirits.com. That's where I get my crystals. It's so funny. I think I've said wow like 100 times talking to you here. I'm just sitting here going, wow, oh my God, wow. So another tip for people, how do we all raise our frequency? How do you, because I do yoga and I meditate and all that stuff. Any other tips on that?
Moving the body in any way raises the vibration of the cellular structure. And it's one of the things that we, as especially those of us in the metaphysical or spiritual or paranormal culture, forget, is that there is no hierarchy between the spirit, the flesh, and the mind. And we tend to think that if we raise our spiritual aptitude, somehow that pulls everything along. We can raise our vibration physically and it pulls the spirit along. It actually helps with brain chemistry too, which then helps our attitude, which allows us to create more love in the world, which raises our vibration. We can also just love on something. Find, like you're talking about your baby doggy, Karen, find something that you love. And if for just even 30 seconds, once an hour, think about or hug that thing that you love more than anything in the world, and let nothing but love flood your body. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes with humans, we have to give love in order to pull the love through the body. It's hard for us to abstractly, many people, I know people who can, I'm not there yet in my spiritual practice, but to just draw love through the ethers. But if we give love, it changes the actual density of the ether structure in our area. The more love you put out, literally it drives negative energies away, because the negative energies are obliterated by the higher vibration. So they run away from it. They don't want to be around it. Wow. So as we raise our own frequencies, we can do it in so many ways: being kind, laughing, swimming. God, if you live on the coast, you lucky people out there, getting in the water and swimming a bit, moving the body as well as moving energies through the body raises vibration.
I'm going back to Australian Paracon this year. And last time I went, there was this medium that she spoke about how she was sort of in denial or not paying attention to it, or sort of backing away from, mediumship and things like that. And she became very ill. She had adrenal burnout, and she kept it was almost like playing whack-a-mole with these diseases or things that people couldn't figure out. And as soon as she sort of accepted this mediumship and let the energy work through her, she became very, very healthy. And I think I see that in a lot of people, especially, I know this woman, she's so psychic and so great. She does life readings, and then she kind of stopped, and all this illness is around. And I just think, oh, you should be doing that. I always say you should be doing that. But you can't tell, I'm not a doctor, but you should really be doing that. But I think it is the way we process energy sometime.
You're exactly right. The times in my life where I've not been doing this work as much, and there's reasons, I might be touring with music, or there's other things going. Oh, the music, that's a channeling exercise, so that keeps you feeling good too. Yet, if we just try to shut ourselves down and just sit in front of Netflix and binge watch, shows for weeks at a time, it's like you're dripping faucet, Karen. We just keep getting full and full and full and full. And of course, what is the root of all dis-ease? It's inflammation. Right. So when we suck up all this energy, we literally bloat the body, because the body is a reflection of what's going on in the spirit. The spirit is a reflection of what's going on in the body. Again, I can't stress it enough. This is a message coming through the angelic realm right now that's just huge in this time frame. There is no hierarchy between mind, body, and spirit. They are all sacred. So as we move all of this, we are designed actually to heal ourselves. We are self-cleaning units. We are self-healing units. And no, the body's probably not going to live forever, but we probably should live a lot longer than we do. And if you look at our, not to demonize our pharmaceutical companies, because that's so trite, yet a lot of the non-balanced Western medical model, and there's a very balanced Western medical model also. The non-balanced Western medical model wants us to be sedentary, and the non-balanced Western religious model wants to have us ignore our innate spiritual gifts, talents, and aptitudes. Right. So we're literally becoming stagnant and enacting stasis in two major areas that are designed to allow ourselves self-healing. So yeah, if you're a person listening out there and you think you might be clairvoyant or clairsentient, mediumship, divinator with the tarot, whatever, a channel, who knows, you're just amazing. Do your work, because the only person who suffers if you choose not to will be you.
Yeah, that's put so well. My God, and we're not even going to get to UFOs today, which I was so fascinated with. It's funny because so many people, sometimes I think too, when they come to a reading or they meet me, some of it is almost just to dispel that someone told them this was the devil's work or something like that. And I had a very, my sister, who is just fabulous, she does podcasts with me sometimes. She would say, one day she said to me, she said, when you were a little kid, you had your own phrase, and it was bussa gasa bus. And I used to say that over and over. Now I remember. And a couple days later, a friend of mine said, that's a psychic, said, you need to find out about the Catholic saints. You need to find about the saints. And I was like, I'm not Catholic. I don't understand that. So just as a kick, I went online and I Googled patron saint of psychics and mediums. And there is one. And his name is Agabus, Agabus. And I was,
wow.
Yeah, like, was I I couldn't say it right or something, but I find this fascinating because it is so hard to find information on him. And he hung out with Paul. He's part of Paul's posse, and he would predict whether it was going to be famine or war. And I was thinking, whoever decided to bury that little nugget of information has really hurt a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. And when we look at, it's so sad. It really, when we look at the politicization, I can't even say that, of religion that happened back in 1000 AD, when it really became, oh, wow, I can get people to fall in line by telling them they'll go to hell. Got it. This is easier to rule this way. So church and state melded, and that became a big Western, Europe thing. What became so fascinating with that is that it ruins the franchise, Karen. If people can just go inside and align with the God, with the Mother, Father, God, or Mother, Father, Spirit within, and heal the body and be at peace with these spiritual gifts and talents, then nobody's coming to the church to have the priest or the pastor or the reverend be the intercessor to God. So I'm not putting my nickel in the plate, and I'm not going to get my redemption. So it ruins the franchise if we go back to the indigenous system of all connectedness. And the angels, you know what they call God?
What?
They call it the all, or the one that is all. If I'm not getting it, they put the one in because we relate to such singular beings down here. But the all, that's God.
Wow.
And so, it's amazing to talk with these beings because their perspective is so different. So yeah, and look at the Bible. The Bible is full of psychics. John the Baptist was a clairvoyant. He talked all about the coming of Christ. Elijah, one of the biggest prophets in the Bible, was just like this killer great medium who went up on the mountain, talked to the dead relatives, got insights, and came down and said, hey, everybody, the dead people said this. And we called those people back in the day prophets. I personally would be extremely uncomfortable if someone called me a prophet, because I think if you're going to call me a prophet, Karen, we're all getting called prophets. We're all prophets. If I'm a prophet, we're all prophets. So it's just our wording has changed over the years. But yeah, it's a control mechanism, and I think we're coming up to suppress those spiritual gifts, and I think we're coming out of that time frame now.
Yeah, and it's when I was taking one of these ayahuasca trips, I asked Vine Spirit, I said, how can I help my readings? And she said, do not say you have a gift. You do not have a gift. You have just chosen a point of focus more than other people. This is not a gift separates you from others. And I always thought, well, that's very, like you just said, you're not a prophet. You're doing, it's your point of focus, or what, you may have some more, I would say more lifetime advantage, but I love that you exactly what you said of the word prophet. Yeah. It's a big word.
It's a big word, in my opinion, because of what we have made it into divinity to be a prophet. The fact is, we are all a prophet in our own way. We all bring magic and majesty in our own way. Every one of us is like you said, the word gifted. Every one of us is spiritually gifted. We are all spiritual creatures running around in monkey suits, running around in flesh suits. So we are all these people who are majestic.
Right.
And there are some of us that, fly our weirdo flag a little higher, maybe to say, hey, it's okay, come out of the closet with your weird. It's totally cool. Because many of us, I would beg to differ that I would say every human being on this earth has got some incredible spiritual aptitude. We'll call it that.
Yeah.
That they've either been told to ignore or they were taught was demonic from an old world 20th century sociopathic business modality driven by consumerism that needed everybody to fall in line and buy something external to be fabulous. And I truly believe in this feminine time frame, we are done with that.
Yes, I know. I can't wait for that. So now we didn't get to UFOs. We didn't even get to angelic channeling. And you said it's amazing to talk to those beings. Well, that's how I feel about you. It's amazing to talk to you. I just love you, Danielle. Okay, so.
Now, I love you too, Karen. You're awesome. Thank you for your point of view in the world. That's awesome.
And now everyone is like, well, how do I find more Danielle? So I'm going to give the website, and then I want you to tell them about the Patreon site. And the book is called True Tales of the Truly Weird. That is on Amazon, and I believe they can get it on your site also?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, love.
I was going to say also, everybody, in our when you go to the podcast, we will have a link to her website, to Danielle's website, which is DanielleEgnew-advisor. Danielle Egnew Advisor, right? Got it right.
That is correct. That is correct. And if you go to my website also, you will see an opportunity to join my Patreon site. And what that is, it's a subscription site where I have a podcast that I do. And for $5 a month, then you get access to the podcast. It's an ad-free podcast. And Karen, I have to have you on mine. This would be so much fun. Oh my God. And so, you can see, and you can actually go through, there's lots of different subscription tiers there, from healing DNA music that I compose that actually inspires DNA to unlock those lower 12 rungs that contain, as Karen put it, our points of focus that really help us in our evolution as a species. There are audio class series. There's all kinds of stuff. So you can peruse that, and you can find it on my website. And coming up, keep your eyes peeled on my website, because I've got my National Ascension Tour that I am launching in September, and I will be traveling to different cities doing live angelic channeling for messages for the world that are necessary or helpful. I should say nothing's really necessary, but helpful for our next evolution. I'll be doing personal readings, group readings for people that are there at these events. So it's going to be really intense. Question and answers. You want to know anything about an alien? I gotcha. So this is going to be coming up on the site. So keep an eye on that website, DanielleEgnew-advisor.com. And you can find that documentary, Montgomery House, The Perfect Haunting, that I directed. It's all there, the whole enchilada. And hit me on Facebook and Twitter so I can actually talk to you guys. Find me on Facebook and Instagram so we can change cool pics of our dogs.
Yes, and she's always this nice, ladies and gentlemen, always. This was fabulous. And, okay, folks, well, that is, this week. I'm so excited. My head is full of information. I'm running out to get some black tourmaline. You can find me at karenrontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com. If you could leave me a review on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you listen to me, that would help out a lot. On my website now, we have a little place where you can be where you can help me out. You can become a sponsor yourself. You can become a silent sponsor because I'm looking to take some, I'll talk about that next time. You can book a reading all there at karenrontowski.com. Danielle, it has been such a pleasure.
Oh, Karen, thank you. And it's wonderful to talk to you again. God, Helen Beck's was a long time ago.
I know.
So this is just fabulous. And thank you so much for having me on your show. This is just a blast.
You got it. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week.